Ciao, everyone, and welcome back to the show. I'm Raf, your host, and my guest today is Abran Maldonado. Hi, Abran. How are you?
Good to see you. I'm glad to be back at AI Week. I love it here.
How is going? How is going?
It's going great. I always take some time to enjoy the culture first. So I went to Florence and then came here to Milan and Rome to be a part of this. And it was great the first time. And the last time I came here, AI was in a different place. And I call it like dog years with AI because 1 year in real time in AI is like 5 years.
I love
So a
it.
lot has happened between now and then.
I agree. I love it. I want to start with a simple one. I just wanted to know more about your journey with AI. So where did it all started, and where are you now?
So in the beginning, I came. There's a word in English, a phrase. I don't know how it translates here. Multi-hyphenate, and multi-hyphenate means people that have multiple interests or have done a lot of things, had different career experiences.
Multipotenziali, we say in Italy.
Yeah. So I worked as an artist. I worked in the music industry, entertainment, then moved to education, and then to tech, right?
Wow.
So I took all that and brought that into technology. And in 2020, when OpenAI reached out to me and gave me access to the invite-only research beta of GPT, I wasn't like everybody else. I was very different because I was a creative, an artist. I was a teacher. So I had a different perspective on how to use GPT. And when they saw that, they were like, can we make you an ambassador to give us feedback, research, sign a bunch of NDAs first, right? Top
Yeah,
secret
I
stuff.
wanted to ask. Yeah.
And we'll give you access to all the models before they're released to the public and give us your feedback, right? And they're like, in like 2021, they were like, oh, we're gonna try this thing called chat, right? So this is 2 years before ChatGPT. And I was like, it's okay, it's cool, it's just a chat, what's the big deal? And then now we see where it is. But now I take all that and I look at real world problems in the world and say, okay, when I apply AI to it, how does it help the problem or make it worse? And a lot of companies, different industries come to me and say, hey, how can you help us with AI? So it's way more than ChatGPT now. Now I work with Google and NVIDIA and IBM and private companies, enterprise, and even nonprofits and charities to figure out how to help them with AI.
That's a great hook for me because I wanted to ask what inspired you to co-found Create Labs, your
Yes.
company. What's the core mission?
So at first, it was not enough of us. And when I say us, people from my community, people of color, people who come from low income backgrounds, not enough of us in those categories get to do innovative things, right? We don't get to be in Silicon Valley like everybody else. We don't get to play with robots, play with AI, and build things. We're just as creative as anybody else, and we see that with hip hop, right? A lot of creativity comes from hip hop. You don't see a lot of people in hip hop building robots or building AI, right? So we wanted to change that. We were like, we see the creativity that comes from our community. People like it for entertainment, but what could we do with it when it comes to innovation? And so I recruit a lot of creative people to build AI with me at Create Labs. And the goal was, that's why we called it Create Labs. We just want people to be creative with these technologies, either creating technologies or being creative with technologies. And now we lead the industry when it comes to like removing bias from AI, from adding diversity into AI and representation. We're one of the leaders in those spaces.
And I love that you just mentioned bias in AI. I think it's one of the most important topic at the moment. This morning I had a talk about this. I wanted to have your point of view. So it's a huge problem.
Yes, still.
Do you think there is a solution, and how many years do we need to fix it, if we can fix it somehow?
It's a bigger problem than AI because if they're just taking a sample of data from society, the bias in society is going to show up. And take Wikipedia, for example. Many language models are trained on Wikipedia. 87% of Wikipedia pages are made by white men. So whatever bias is in those Wikipedia pages are going to show up in the LLMs. So if we're more careful and thoughtful with where we get our data from, then we can control a little bit of what the bias is in the data. And still, bias is subconscious. We don't even know our biases. So we have to test for it. And we do evaluations, we do measurements to see, okay, what level of bias. Let's take 100 answers from a chatbot that we make. How many were biased? We find out 7. Okay, that's 7%. That's still too high for us. Let's get it down to like under 4%, under 3%. And we look, how is ChatGPT performing in bias, or Claude? And we're like, all right, if they're at like 7 to 10%, let's get under them and make sure that ours is better. And also involving experts, right? So if I help Italy build a chatbot based on your culture, and I do it on my own, there's going to be bias because I'm making assumptions. I'm guessing. I don't know your culture like you do. But if I involve professors from your universities, teachers from your schools, then they would help me make it more accurate, you know?
And I love that you have a lot of experience with companies and nonprofit and a lot of different organizations. What do you see when you talk with them about this huge problem? I mean, do they realize what bias in AI are? Are they trying to do something? What's the situation out there? I suppose that's the question.
You assume that there's always going to be bias, that hallucinations are always going to be there, and it's not something that you can control because if you're using ChatGPT, if you're using Gemini or Copilot, they built it already and you're just using it. When you can customize it and add your own data and fine tune it, then you have more control over the responses and you're in the steering wheel, you're in the driver's seat. So I tell those companies, I'm like, we're just using the technology, but we can build our own with you. We can customize and control the levels of bias, the levels of information, the type of information that comes out, the tone, the voice, all of that can be controlled with your guidance if you let us build it for you from scratch. But if you're just using ChatGPT, they built it already and you're just the end user. So I'm trying to get them to not just be end users, but to be developers.
And on the other side of the conversation, there are in the huge companies, usually, American tech companies that are building those models. What's the situation there on that side? What do you think? Are they doing enough? Is there something else that they could do about it?
Yeah, so what I like about OpenAI is that they do take active measures to address things that they don't like in the responses, right? But Sam Altman just said on Twitter that they were pulling back some updates because
Last one, yeah.
it was people pleasing, right? Sycophancy, where it's like, it's too agreeable. It's just telling you what you want to hear, right? And they're like, oh, maybe that's skewing too much that way. So let's pull it back. And in real time, they're like, all right, let's make that change and pull that back. And I think when people, what they call build in public, when you build in public, the community gives you feedback and you respond to that feedback, and you say, okay, let's make some changes. We hear you, we see what you don't like about our models, and we're going to make some changes. 4.5, I think they said, was the most emotionally intelligent and sympathetic and empathetic. And, a lot of the developers are like, oh, that doesn't help me. I use it for code. I'm like, well, not everything is code. Sometimes you need it to be more
I totally
empathetic,
agree. Yeah. Yeah. And what's the next step? I mean, is that something else that we should do right now? I mean, we as a society,
Yeah.
people using AI, people building AI, developers out there.
Yeah, so I've always represented what's known as the no-code community and people who are experts. If you're a history teacher in a school, you shouldn't have to give up your career to learn Java or Python just to participate in AI. No, stay as an expert in history. It will give you the tools where you can do AI as an expert in history. So these tools where you can just communicate with them with your expertise. And a lot of that is what's resulting into what's called vibe coding, right? Vibe coding or text prompting, where like I give you the information and you turn that into code, right? The AI turns it into code. Or agents, I can write down on a whiteboard or with Post-its and say, I want my agent to do these steps, right? Maybe that you have 20 Post-its on a whiteboard. These are the steps that I want my agent to complete. You could take a picture of that whiteboard,
It's made.
give it to ChatGPT. ChatGPT will turn it into an agentic workflow, and then you upload that to your agent. All you did was with a pencil and a Post-it to take your creativity, your ideas, and then the AI did the rest.
And I love that example because the creativity is the key.
Yes,
So
that's your currency right now.
Exactly. So you just mentioned vibe coding, and now we know that it's like the new buzzword out there. Is it just a buzzword? I mean, is it just hype? Is it something that it's here to stay? What's your take on the whole vibe coding and vibe marketing that's happening right now?
It's here to stay because it's just the next iteration of prompting, where you have text to text, you have text to image, text to video, where you write a description and it generates a video output. So now it's text to code. You write a string of text in plain language, any language, and it writes a string of code to execute your idea or vision. And the better that real-time voice gets is going to be no different than a podcast. You're going to have a conversation where like, all right, let's me and you sit down and come up with an idea for an app together and have a conversation while the listening agent is writing the code in real time while we talk, right? So think of from an accessibility standpoint, people who don't have all their capabilities with their hands to type, I still don't know how to code. And look how far I've gotten in this industry over the last 5 years without coding a single line.
That's why I use the word magic. I mean, to me, in 2025, this still feels like magic. It's unbelievable what we can do right now with this technology. But I suppose that there are, out there, developers also listening to the show, and maybe some of them are kind of worried about their future.
Yes.
The whole thing, everyone is going to be a coder, code is going to be shitty.
Yeah.
We're going to lose our jobs. What do you think about that? I mean, is there a future where we can have both, the vibe coders and old school developers out there?
Well, let's compare it to the automotive industry. I drive an electric vehicle. I drive a Rivian, right? I love the car. I don't know what's going on under the hood. Actually, I open the hood, there's nothing there. It's another trunk, right? There's a battery underneath the car. I don't know how that works. I drive it. I know how to drive it very well, but you will always need mechanics that know how to fix that car, right? So I can be a really good driver as a vibe coder, right? I could be a really good prompt engineer, but you will always need the mechanic that knows how to fix the code in case something goes wrong, that knows what's happening under the hood, and they have their own technologies. Now, if you go to the Rivian factory, they're also using AI as the mechanics, but a different kind. Diagnostics, testing, safety protocols, right? Simulations for safety. So they have their own versions of vibe coding on their side for their protocols that they need to test for. That's different than mine as a driver, So when I speak to the software developers, the other ambassadors that are expert software engineers, unit testing, debugging, and even with vibe coding, like I like Replit, I like Lovable, Hey Boss is another good one that I use, Bolt. That will get most people in this room, they will get maybe 70% of the way there completing their vibe coding app. That last 30%, you need to find a developer and a coder that can help you finish it, get it to production, publish it to the Apple Store, connect it to a database, connect it to SSO for login. Like those are things like, I just made the pretty colors. Someone else has to do the rest.
And somehow I suppose we had maybe the same, not the same people, but we had people also worried when, I don't know, we went from assembly to, I don't know, Python, and then you had JavaScript, and there was always someone saying, oh, this is shit, this is not real coding. Yeah. We were the real coder back then. Yeah. I thought it's maybe someone is always worrying about, something new arriving on the market. So,
but I mean, there were also candle makers in Italy, right? And what happened to them when we started with electricity?
Yeah.
And I come from the music industry. I remember when Serato came. So I would go with DJs and they would be carrying crates of records.
Yeah.
And then they see a guy walk in with a laptop and they're like, oh, my back hurts. He's just carrying a small MacBook Air. Like, but if I carry the laptop, am I still a DJ? Right? And then eventually, now everyone brings a laptop to the club. So it's just an evolution of tools, to do the same thing. You're still a DJ. Jazzy Jeff, I don't know if they know Jazzy Jeff out here, who's Will Smith's DJ, very famous now on the DJ court. He said, when I'm doing a big music festival with 10,000 people, the people all the way in the back have no idea what I'm using.
Yeah.
They're just enjoying the experience.
Yeah.
When I make a beautiful video or film in AI, you don't know what I used, so long as you're enjoying the experience.
I totally agree with you. It was funny when I was Googling, preparing for this interview and finding information and, cool topics to talk about with you. On several websites, I found this sentence that you are known as one of the first prompt engineers out there. And it was huge, even maybe a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
using the words, prompt engineer or prompt engineering. Is it something that is still there? I mean, in my experience, my feeling using AI tools every day is that they are getting better and better and better. So I don't need to be, like super nerd when I'm building a prompt. They really understand me. They understand what's my need, so I can go, with a like really easy and simple prompt, and I still get the result. So is prompt engineering just changing, evolving, or it's just somehow disappearing?
No, so there's different levels of prompting, and working with the best prompt engineers in the world and seeing how they prompt and how I've learned from them in the early days. Now, when I say early, this is 2020. So think of how many years before ChatGPT that was.
Yes.
Right? And when most people went on the OpenAI website and they learned how to prompt from the OpenAI website, my mentors wrote those instructions, right? Andrew Main and Russ Foltz Smith and all the other ambassadors wrote the initial instructions for everyone to learn how to prompt engineer, right? In those early days. I like calling it prompt design, but prompt engineering, same thing. And so if you're using ChatGPT, you could write a single sentence to get what you want, right? But when we made the small business AI coach for MasterCard, that prompt is about 30 pages long.
Wow.
And
You mean single prompt?
the single prompt.
That's crazy.
And maybe 15 pages are what not to do, are the guardrails.
I love it.
And the tone of voice of the MasterCard chatbot to sound like everything else that MasterCard writes on their website, their customer service. That was a meeting with 20 people at MasterCard to write that one paragraph from the prompt. So that's how serious you have to take prompt engineering when it's creating a corporate product for enterprise to release. It's not just a single sentence.
Yeah.
A lot of descriptions, a lot of work goes into every single sentence. And then if something goes wrong, we go through those 30 pages and we change one word.
Yeah.
And it changes the output.
And do you think that that's still true even for like small businesses out there, freelancers? I mean, most of the people listening to the show and also here at the conference, they don't owe a corporate, maybe it's 5 people team. So do you think that's still important even in those situations, small teams, freelancers, solopreneurs?
So I would say the best thing for them to do is their 30 pages would be give your life story, your complete business plan. That's your prompt, right? Write your business plan to ChatGPT.
I love it.
Give it the core memory that it needs to give you advice on future decisions that you make with the business, right? And then now ChatGPT stores memory, right? So do this for years. For years, you just brainstorm with ChatGPT, and then now it has that core memory. So then when a new deal comes up, right, say, oh, I have this big partnership, opportunity with, AI Week. What do I do? And it's like, well, I can guide you based on how you do your business. I can help you write your proposal because it has learned that over time. And if you're an author, if you're a creative writer, teaching it your style is your prompt engineering, practice. It takes a lot of work because you want to see anything that comes out to look like your writing style. And that's going to take a lot of work to teach it how you write, So there's a lot that they can accomplish, but that's a good starting point. But then there's so many other tools that you have to use, and I'm going to go over that in my workshop. Of like you start in ChatGPT, but then you take that out and put it into Midjourney. You take that out and put that into Veo and Sora. You take that out and put it into Claude. There's so many other tools that you have to use. but your starting point could be ChatGPT with your core prompt.
I love it, guys. This is golden. I love it. Um, if you look at the future of generative AI, what's the thing, the trend, the technology that excited you the most at the moment?
I'm excited by film. I'm excited by entertainment because I don't like the idea of Hollywood. I like that you can be
Okay.
what's known as a world builder, right?
Okay.
The next George Lucas or James Cameron or Stan Lee. You don't have to like be a billion-dollar producer in Hollywood just to make beautiful things. You know, a 15-year-old child in Milan with these tools can make the next Marvel, and now you have the tools to do that. And if you want a show, if you want a Italian superhero, you don't have to wait for Marvel to meet in a Disney boardroom.
We just built it.
Just build it. Just build it with these tools that I'm watching right now on that screen and go build it. Go build it and get your own following.
Do you think this is something that we can do today? I mean, how far away are we from this? I mean,
Right now,
a kid,
no.
building a movie in his own room.
A kid building a movie in his own room, his own cartoon. There's a good example. I have a 10-year-old son. He watches Digital Circus, right? And it was a YouTube show. Right now, there's 4 episodes ever made. And it has gone so viral on YouTube that they already have toys. And Netflix picked up just their 4 episodes. Not 4 seasons, 4 episodes. And it could have been a 15-year-old that made Digital Circus with AI. Who knows? Like, it didn't look like a very sophisticated animation.
So it's real. It's happening now.
It's happening now. And if you put the following behind it, the viewership, and the fan base, the loyal fan base of someone who's making AI content can get a Netflix deal tomorrow with their AI content and you start a new franchise. You don't have to move out to Hollywood anymore and do the whole networking and connections and sacrificing things about yourself that you don't like because you want to get your foot into the door. That's done. That's completely done. The access to knowledge from universities is out there through ChatGPT, and access to creative tools that were gate-kept, the gatekeeping in Hollywood is now democratized too, and now everyone has access.
And the last one, is there something that concerns you looking at the future of this technology?
Yeah, human connection. I've met more people because of my tours with AI speaking than I ever have before, and I love that. And I love that I get to experience your country. But I don't like that people turn to it when they're lonely, or they go to it for relationship advice or therapy. I built a therapy bot for a hospital, and I did it with the medical experts. I think with a ChatGPT that's like a one-size-fits-all general tool, it's not built for that. Because with the therapy bot that we made, if something concerning comes up, like self-harm, it alerts the hospital, it alerts your doctor, it alerts your counselor to call you and say, hey, I just saw this in the chatbot, is everything okay? If you do that with the ChatGPT and say, I want to hurt myself, there's no one's going to call you on the other side and say, hey, I saw this come up, is everything okay? So you got to be careful. And also, these AI tools are just going to tell you what you want to hear. And that's a scary thing.
Bias again.
The bias, the people pleasing, like, I just want to be by myself. You don't want the chatbot to be like, okay, be by yourself.
Yeah.
Lock yourself in that room. No, you want real connections with real people. That should not go away. If anything, it should take away the boring work that we don't want to do, the spreadsheets, the reports, the proposals, so we could be outside more and connect with real people and go visit, churches and see sunsets.
I agree. I love it.
Thank you,
Abran,
boss.
it was a great pleasure. Thank you very much for being on the show.
All right, thank you.